Now let's go over an advertising rollout. All right, so we're to the launch point. We're ready to start selling our product ourselves. No longer are we dependent on just promoting someone else's product. It's time to make our own product for sale. So we want to build up some anticipation with our opt-in list that we've already built with the validation stage and let them know that we're about to release our product. So we basically say, hey, I have an important announcement to make, whatever, and lead them into telling them about what you're getting ready to release. So you want to build up the anticipation, even make it for a few days. Like say, if it's Monday, say, hey, on Thursday, I have something really exciting for you. And then you could say, I'm releasing a new product. I don't want to tell you too much about it just yet, but it's going to be awesome. And then on Tuesday, you tease them a little bit more. And then on Wednesday, you say, hey, tomorrow's the big day. Make sure you check your email. And then, of course, Thursday is the release. You say, my company's releasing this. We think it's going to be great for you, so on and so forth. So if you want to maximize your initial sales of this product launch, product release, you want to use some real scarcity. So offer a limited bonus for people that buy your product like within the first 7 days, the first 10 days, or a special discount. There are a number of different ways to frame this. You can basically say that you're doing kind of a grand opening sale or special. A lot of people have used that before. And then you can, say the grand opening is only for 7 to 10 days. So we can then, gauge our customers' needs, our customers', response to the product, so on and so forth. And then after you do the initial campaign of 7 to 10 days and open it up and bring in the sales, for the last few days, you want to be mailing them, hey, only 72 hours left to order, only 48 hours, only 24 hours, only 1 hour. And then what you do is you take the product down. You actually stop selling it. Believe it or not, this helps you get a spike of sales and hopefully will bring you a nice little pile of money that can pay for, a lot of advertising that you've done and a lot of other money you've already invested to that point, and hopefully even make you a bunch of profit. But that's how we can get a spike of sales initially offering the product for sale. Now, typically when people think of a product launch, they think of lining up a bunch of affiliate partners and having everyone mail at the same time. That's not really the launch we're talking about. We're just talking about the product release to our own list, to the prospects that we built up during the validation stage. So if you use that moist test technique, then you want to announce to the waiting list people that, hey, the product's now finally ready for sale again, ready to be released. And then you want to confirm, of course, the discount or bonus that you promised them. So you say, we didn't forget about your 20% off discount that we promised you, when the product was originally unavailable when you tried to order. So go here and be able to use this coupon code or, however you want to do the discount, or use this special backdoor page that don't give it out to the public, but this will get you 25% off or whatever the discount is. And then of course, or you can offer the bonus, say as soon as you order, email this special email address and we're going to send you the bonus that we promised, whatever that is, so on and so forth. Consider using a 10-day initial release window. So, and you want to use this, whatever the number is, 7 days, 10 days, whatever you're going to have it open for initially for, you want to be using that in your anticipation emails before you launch the site and open things up for sales. You say, hey, we're only doing a special 10-day grand opening, and then the product will no longer be for sale for a little while we gauge our customer response and so on and so forth. So maximize your sales. So consider taking the offer down, I mentioned this already, for 7 to 14 days. So after you do the grand opening thing, let's say for 10 days, then take the page down and leave it off the market for like a week or even 2 weeks. Then you'll announce to your list again that you're going to be offering the product again. So if they missed out the first time, this is their second chance. And this time, and then of course do a little build up and then open the site up again. But this time you just leave it up permanently. But you're no longer calling it a grand opening special. Of course, that was the first time around. Now, when the offer's down for 7 to 14 days, put up an opt-in form waiting list on the sales page. Now, I don't mind tooting my own horn here because I invented this concept. You see a lot of big launches in the kind of digital marketing space, internet marketing space for different types of products probably, and you're now seeing it in other markets. And what you'll notice is as they use time scarcity and when the offer comes down, when time's up, it was closing at midnight, you'll typically see they'll replace the sales page with an opt-in form that says, hey, you missed out. but join our waiting list to be notified, when we either have more units for sale or decide to offer it again, and you'll be the first to know. So I created this concept. I was one of the first people to ever test this, and I've realized how much money was in this method and in this process. So you definitely want to use this. This is, even if some of these, obviously the same people, let's say, are already on your opt-in list, it's a different psychology. It goes beyond the scope of this course, but I can talk about it really, really fast a little bit and how it relates to this. Getting someone to make a commitment, and I may have briefly mentioned this before, but getting someone to make a commitment is very, very powerful. Any commitment you can get someone to make in your marketing process, they're more likely to convert and buy. Well, by having them raise their hands and actually take action and opt into a sub list, even if they're already on your main opt-in list, getting them to opt into a sub list, like a waiting list for something, that's getting a commitment from them, just to yet another little piece of effort out of them, and they're now that much closer to actually taking action or being more likely to buy. So just if you only have an opt-in list to mail to initially for a grand opening and not any other traffic, don't underestimate that getting people to join a waiting list and raising their hand and say, oh, I definitely want to be on the waiting list, is a lot more powerful than if you just email your main opt-in list that they're already on. So it is different. So then you recognize them by saying, hey, you were on our waiting list. We wanted you to be the first to know that the product is going to be available on Wednesday, and you give them a backdoor link or a special link that's not public. And you do this before you mail your main opt-in list. It's very, very powerful, and you can get a lot of sales. By the way, just a sidebar here, just to help you make money in your business, regardless of whatever your business is. If you're selling high-ticket stuff, if you're selling coaching, consulting, anything expensive or high ticket where, especially if it's something where there's not a lot of them being sold, like if you're working personally with clients in a business, using the waiting list model is great. And then another great thing to do is, if you then, after a day or two, go to the people on the waiting list, like one at a time, and contact them personally and say, hey, I see that you joined my waiting list, and say, I have a spot available. If you do have a spot available, let's say for private coaching or whatever it is you're selling, say, I do have a spot that, that's now available. You're next on the waiting list. You basically have 24 hours to claim it, or it's going to go to the next person after you, and we're going to move on the waiting list. We have a bunch of people on the waiting list. Well, that's an incredibly powerful concept that I have used many, many times to make a lot of money. And so it's very powerful psychology. People go from feeling like they missed out to then being excited to have a second chance. So definitely use that. That's just a quick sidebar, quick little bonus for you. But definitely use that if you do high ticket stuff. Now, when you put the offer back up, you're going to email that waiting list, just like I said, and the main list. But as I pointed out, mail the waiting list people first. At least give them a few day head start, and then go and mail the entire list. And then after you have the offer back up, you've done the grand opening, you've taken it down, you've brought it back up so it's up permanently. Now it's time for us to advertise. Now it's time for us to really ramp up traffic, step by step. And, by the way, we don't do any of this unless we're starting to get things to convert. If we start in the beginning with like highly targeted Facebook ads or, even highly targeted pay-per-click ads, and we're not getting positive conversions or not even close to break even, then we need to reassess. So when I say it's time to advertise, don't go just spending tons of money on all kinds of advertising. We do it in stages. That's the beauty of this. Back to our core principle of cost analysis and how much it costs to bring a project to market. We never want to spend more than we have to. So you want to be smart with your money and basically spend a little bit and we get good positive results. Then we start spending a little bit more and more as we ramp and scale things up. So let's talk about an advertising rollout. So stage one, we already started with kind of driving highly targeted Facebook traffic. We did that to the validation page. You may still be doing it at this point. So we drive highly targeted Facebook traffic. This was like, if we know more females than males, buy the product, it's only to females. If we know it's a certain age group, it's only to that restricted age group. If we know it's from a certain country, it's only to that country. If we know it's a certain income range, it's only to that income range. We really dial it in for our highly targeted advertising. If you had a low budget, but if you set it to $100 a day or $50 a day or $1,000 a day, whatever a low budget is to you, and you've started getting break even or better, then start increasing your daily budget. Sticking with the highly targeted. Maybe you haven't spent all you could spend on still the highly targeted kind of settings and demographics and audience in Facebook. So dial that up. Now, when you've maxed out that highly targeted traffic, if it's still converting, the next step we moved on to is just what I'm just saying, medium targeted. So we go from highly targeted to medium targeted. Now, this is still targeted, but we may broaden the group. So let's say we know that more females than males buy, but we know the basic age range of all the customers, kind of the prime language, the best country, all that stuff. Well, now maybe we start running some ads to males. We've already done females. Now we isolate a new campaign with all those other things the same, but we just changed gender. So we just changed male. Well, we're going to track all this stuff separately, these campaigns. So we start tracking that. Then we may start another campaign where we broaden the age gap. We go from 35 to 45-year-olds to 35 to 55-year-olds. And then we start maybe adding another country. We start maybe, changing the income kind of group, the requirement there, the criteria. We change the education level. We change if they're single or married. The cool thing about Facebook advertising is the detailed control to the audience that we want to put ads in front of. And if you do enough careful tracking of campaigns, or really create tons of separate campaigns, we can really start figuring things out. We can find out who the ideal customer is, that it is a woman that's age 35 to 45, that makes more than $30,000, but less than $100,000, that is currently single, that lives in the western part of the United States. I mean, we can figure so much out by controlling our criteria. So we want to do all kinds of kind of medium targeted campaigns, build those budgets up to as far as we can go, as long as it's still profitable. And if all that's still profitable, then we move on to the lower targeted. Now notice the word targeted is still there. I'm not talking about untargeted. I'm just talking about lower targeted than where we started. So now maybe we want to broaden, the age really to 18 to 55. And, we do want to do males and females. We do want to add some more countries. We do want to add some different things. So that's what we want to start to do, is basically generate all the profitable traffic we can from Facebook. And there's tons of it out there. So when we start running campaigns that aren't profitable, especially if they're way off, pause it, get rid of it. Stick with the ones that are, at first we're going to lose some money, but start dialing it in closer and closer. And, you're going to do some split tests with your ad images and your ad copy, and you're going to start dialing. And by the way, you're thinking, oh, what ad should I use? What image should I use? Well, let's go back to this whole process. When you look at AdBeat and you look at some of, even if it's just, you take the trial for a few days and you don't pay for the AdBeat account, which we've talked about, but in those 3 days, take a bunch of screenshots of competitor display ads and all the data that you can kind of cover at least in the trial, and look at the ads that they're running on other networks and get ideas from those proven ads to create your Facebook ads. Unfortunately right now, there's no easy way to really monitor the Facebook network for competitors. There just isn't. What you could do is set up a whole bunch of different types of Facebook profiles, create one under a male persona, a female persona, and different ages and different criteria, say, single, married, just add a few random friends or whatever, and start to observe the ads that show up in your news feed. And you'll kind of figure out who they're targeted, who they're targeted to, I should say. That's really only kind of how you can do it. At least that I know of at this point of recording this, because there's yet to be a great way to really, kind of observe all the advertising on Facebook and dial in on or hone in on certain competitors. But get ideas for your Facebook visual ad components from the display ad tracking that we can do our research on with tools like AdBeat and tools like SimilarWeb. Look and see the actual ads and then try to create something that's similar, not only with the copy, but in the look and feel and kind of, what it is that they're promoting. So this first stage is just with Facebook. Now, we can build a very big business on just Facebook advertising. And Facebook allows us to send the traffic directly to a sales page, which is awesome, which directly to a landing page that builds opt-ins, which is great. Facebook, I'm getting confused here. Google, unfortunately, with AdWords and pay-per-click it frowns on that. It doesn't want us sending the traffic to like a squeeze page, an opt-in page. But we start with Facebook and we really try to build that up. Now, if you really just want to jump in full speed ahead and you've done your ad beat research and you see someone running display ads for something and you're monitoring it, they have to be making money because you keep seeing those ads, you keep seeing them in ad beat, you keep seeing how much money they're spending. You can skip all this and jump right to running display ads and just do exactly what those competitors are doing. You can do that. I highly recommend, though, you kind of fiddle with the Facebook targeted stuff. You have to anyways in the validation stage, but do it in the kind of launch stage to kind of start selling your own product, at least at a profit first with Facebook ads if you can, because a lot of those display networks don't allow you to target, as well as Facebook ads. So again, it's all about qualified traffic and prospects and targeting. So, but the advertising rollout stage one, we start with Facebook. And we really go as broad as we can until we can still get positive returns. Now, advertising rollout for stage two, we move on to pay-per-click advertising. So in order to do this, we really can't use the validation model anymore, because I just talked about it. Google won't allow us, it frowns on, it's against the rules to send the traffic to a page, as they call it, that just collects information from people. So it needs to be to a sales page. And by the way, Google AdWords is an incredible headache if you haven't really run AdWords campaigns. The page that you send the traffic to has to have a certain quality score that their algorithm, figures out in order for you to get the lowest click prices. All that goes beyond the scope of what I'm covering here in the course. If you just Google how to create a high quality score landing page for Google AdWords, you'll find a bunch of great free resources to how to structure it, where you add other content pages, add other links. You have to terms and conditions, privacy policy, all that stuff linked in the footer. It'll tell you how to do that in order to kind of get the lower click costs, as well as you may want to set up separate landing pages that are still the sales page, but kind of have different titles and different headlines focused on tighter matching to the keywords you're advertising to, because that affects the quality score. But so stage two, though, we'd ideally really like to start doing pay-per-click advertising. There's a lot of money in pay-per-click. So in order to do it, and when I say pay-per-click advertising, I mean Google AdWords. After you exhaust all the traffic and results you can get from Google AdWords, which is a lot, then you can move on to like Bing and some of these smaller search engines and try to use the positively converting keywords that you created with Google AdWords testing, and then just use those campaigns on those other search engines, but still have to track them separately because they don't always convert the same, even though it's the same keyword, same ad, same everything. It's just different search engine. They could be getting their traffic or their partners from different areas. So you have to be careful of that. But in this context of talking about pay-per-click, I just mainly mean Google AdWords for now. So you need to build, of course, a list of your competitors' keywords. You can do that with Keyword Spy that we already covered. I want you to take those keywords, you basically put them in a database, and we need to sort them by click price, average click price. And because typically the click price, the price per click on the keyword, is going to relate to the ones that convert the best. They're the ones that produce the most money typically. That's why they are the highest click price, because they're the most in demand. So we want to take the top 5% of the keywords that we've put together from the competitors, or competitor singular, and we want to start advertising with those in AdWords. So we take the top 5% most expensive keywords, the most targeted ones, and we start running campaigns with those. And the smaller campaign groups, you don't put all the keywords into one ad campaign. You want to really put them in groups of maybe 5 keywords, or ideally by themselves. If it's a really valuable keyword that can be something that produces a lot of money, we almost have to treat it as a miniature business of itself. I've kind of briefly talked about this. So you put it in a campaign by itself, create ad copy that's specifically similar to that keyword, and we really try to maximize the conversions that way. One keyword. I used to have one keyword in one of my other businesses that was generating like $2,000 a day in sales. That's how valuable one keyword can be in certain markets. So ideally, put them in individual campaigns. If you have to, put them in groups of 3 to 5 keywords, and at worst, 5 to 10 keywords. But the more singular you can go, the better. So we're going to start with the top 5% targeted, and we're going to, run some split tests, see what kind of results you get. If you're starting to make money, once we exhaust the top 5%, then we move on to the next 20% of that list. So then we'll be covering the top 25. Now, it's no coincidence that I'm talking about the top 20 or 25% of these pay-per-click keywords in this stage. 80-20 rule, man. The same thing. It repeats itself over and over again. It's amazing. We'll find that 80% of our sales and results will come from 20% of our efforts, or in this case, 20% of the keywords. So that's why this part 1 and part 2 here of the stage 2, where we go top 5% and then move on to the next 20%, is critical. This is where we're going to make most of our money from pay-per-click. But ultimately, once we've really exhausted that next 20%, then and only then do we move on to the other 75% of the list that will be left over. You can build keyword lists of thousands of keywords, so you have to start grouping them in groups of like 50 or so and start getting some results. And we can also really track our analytics, and we can see some of the keywords specifically that are generating the sales. And when we find ones that are doing well, we definitely want to isolate them into their own campaigns to try to maximize them. But pay-per-click advertising can become a full-time job. It takes a lot of work. And ultimately, as you grow your business, if you can, you want to hire someone that can manage your pay-per-click campaigns for you. Of course, you need to set the rules and guidelines and make sure they really know what your daily budget is, kind of the best practices that you want to use. Basically you need to carefully tell them how to manage that job, and don't just say, hey, go for it, because they may spend a lot of money if you're not careful. Moving on to stage 3. And by the way, if you want to do a direct to opt-in page model, so you don't go direct to sales page, but if that's working well, then just skip the pay-per-click stuff, because we know we can't use Google pay-per-click, that is, for sending people directly to a landing page that does the opt-in. So we can just ignore the pay-per-click or at least come back to it. Maybe we have a different model with the sales page leading and move on. So the next stage, though, is to run Google display ads. So we want to run some Google display ads, and that's a huge market. It's just a gigantic amount of inventory out there. You could spend $1 million a day if you wanted to. But we want to start running Google display ads, and most of what we see in AdBeat are these display ads. They advertise on other networks too, but Google has a huge footprint and huge network to show banner ads of all different sizes. So we want to start running Google display ads. Then we move on to ad retargeting. You've probably heard of ad retargeting. It's simple. The easiest version of ad retargeting, there's basically 2 versions that we can do. The simplest form is when people visit our website, we drop a special pixel, like a cookie pixel, onto their browser. So if they go anywhere on the web that can read that pixel, it knows they've visited our website. Well, why this is important, we can use specific ad retargeting networks or options on certain ads, like with Facebook, I'll talk about in a second. And so we can follow that visitor around the internet and show them our ad only if they've been to our site before. So these wouldn't be new people, which all those other stages cover. This is now people that have already been to our website. But most ad retargeting, where we want to run ads to people that have already been to our website, converts really, really well. Because you probably know in marketing, you kind of have to put things in front of somebody multiple times before they make a buying decision. So and you've probably seen this, if you visited sites and then you go on Facebook or you go elsewhere and you're like, hey, I was just on the, special site for those light up dog collars, and here's an ad for them, almost like it's following me. Well, it is following you. It knows there's a pixel that was placed in your browser that you already visited that site, and so it's showing you ads again. So we want to do ad retargeting. It's incredibly powerful. Now, if you don't know how to do ad retargeting, do a quick Google search, how to do ad retargeting, and of course, you can find out all the free information you want on how it's done. But the pixel thing is one type of ad retargeting, and that's for different display ad networks and things all over the internet. But another form of ad retargeting, and we want to do both, specifically on Facebook, we want to do ad. Now, we can do ad retargeting with display ads and other things, but on Facebook, we want to do ad retargeting. So we want to do the pixel thing, and you can just search how to do pixel retargeting on Facebook, and you'll find all kinds of information that will teach you how to do that. So we want to do that, but there's a second type of retargeting that we can do with Facebook, and that's list retargeting. So what we can do is we can actually take, super cool, our opt-in list, and we can upload it to Facebook, and we can create a custom audience where a special campaign where we just want to show ads to people on that list. So not only are those people that have been to our site before, but those are people that have opted in before. So now we'll just show those retargeted ads only to people that have ever opted in at our site. So you can take that a step further, and you can extract the email addresses from our opt-in list that have bought from us before. So as people start buying our products, we want to flag them in whatever system you use. And Infusionsoft is very powerful where you can actually do a lot of this automatically. But we want to start, tagging and doing these things where when we do upload the list for ad retargeting to Facebook, we don't need to put in the email addresses for people that became customers because, why are we running ads to them, trying to get them to come back to the site? They've already bought what we're advertising. Obviously, it's different if we're trying to get them to buy something different. But so that's a way that we can save money, is reducing the opt-in list by taking out the email addresses of people that have bought from us. And of course, we can look at our shopping cart, and as long as they use the same email address, usually they will, we can find those addresses and take them out. And there's some other ways we can use cookies and things like that to tag and find the customer and take them out of the list, even if they use a different email address. So digital marketing has just become so powerful, but it's awesome. So many cool things we could do with the technology. So after we run the Google display ads, we want to do ad retargeting, especially on Facebook. And then we can move into doing ad retargeting with display ads. And then last but not least, we move on to, this is like very, very late in the process. And we could build a massive business without ever even getting to this. But as I mentioned before, then you want to test other pay-per-click networks, other display ad networks. So your goal is, as far as where do you want to advertise? Well, anywhere you can generate profitable traffic, anywhere. So when you go to expand the business, you do need to, after you kind of run its course based on targeting and how big your niche is, you'll need to start getting creative and finding other places to run and test ads. But that's a good problem to have, because hopefully by then you've made a bunch of money. So advertising notes. All campaigns need to be tracked separately. I've said this 100 times now. Can't say it enough. Track each campaign separately. So traffic that came from this certain campaign on Facebook that was promoted this certain way with this certain ad to this group of people, what are those results? How much money did it produce? How much did we pay for the clicks? Did we make money or not? Be very careful with setting up your daily budgets. You can go broke in a hurry. So sometimes there won't be enough traffic for you based on a certain budget. Like if you put $500 as your daily budget and your controls are very, very fine, where you're targeting a very, very specific group of people, well, you may not be able to get that much traffic or spend that much money a day. But be very, very careful setting these budgets, because in many cases, there will be way more traffic than you realize, and you can wipe out your budget in like 30 minutes. And you really want the traffic spread out over the day. So as soon as you start seeing some poorly converting campaigns, but only, this is important, but only if the others are getting good results, not if they're all performing poorly, it's a whole different story. We talked about that. It could be your ad copy, your sales process. But If you start seeing some, perform really, really poorly, pause them. Give them at least, couple 200 visitors, 100 to 200 visitors. If after 100, 200 visitors, they're not really converting, not many are opting in and or not many are buying compared to, the other campaigns, pause them. Don't waste any more money on them. Now you have to understand, there are people doing millions of dollars a month on the internet by buying advertising and running campaigns, but many of the campaigns they've tested aren't producing profitable results. The whole key to this business is you try a bunch of stuff, you keep running the winners and dump the losers. That's the name of the game. So you want all the break-even traffic you can get, or even close to break-even. I've consulted so many entrepreneurs over the last 15 years, and I used to have people that built, a little model, and they were driving traffic, and they were driving lots of traffic, and they were just, they contacted me, and we talked on the phone, and they said, John, I'm just not making any money. And so we went over, every step of their model, every step of their process, every step of what they were doing, and they said, we're generating 1,000 opt-ins a day, but we just can't get them to make profit. They're break. We got it after testing and, squeezing everything and getting everything to convert as high as we can. We're only up to break even. We're only able to get our money back. Well, they paused all their ads because they were only breaking even. Well, what they don't realize is they were building this list for free, essentially. Break even is good. That's your first goal, is just to get to break even, because you can make profit by selling those people things forever, which will put you over break even. And sometimes it takes longer to get past break even in the cycle, where it will take a month or 2 months before they start buying other affiliate offers in your sequence, or buying other back-end offers that you make, or needing to come back to your site 3 or 4 times before they buy the main product that you sell or the main service that you sell. So you want all the break-even traffic that you can get. Keep that in mind. And even if it's close to break-even, you want that traffic too. So every week, you're going to need to test new pay-per-click copy and different creatives. And of course, you can get these ideas from just watching your competitors, seeing what they're using, what they're doing. Ideally, every week you want to run some new split tests, because you can constantly improve your results. Even just a tiny increase in your conversion rate on your ads, on your click-throughs, can just net you thousands of dollars more a month. So you always want to be doing that. An important reminder, last but not least, if all else fails, or if you just need new ideas or whatever, don't lose track to do what they do. In other words, the competitors. Just do what they do. You see them advertising for these few keywords and it's a certain, type of copy. Do what they do, or at least test it. Now you have to know too, sometimes a lot of what you'll see a competitor doing isn't stuff that's making money. They might be lazy. They may be running, campaigns for 200 different keywords, and only 30 of them are ones that are profitable. But they're like, it doesn't matter. We just want all the traffic we can get. Well, that's stupid. Those other ones that don't convert for you, I want you to stop running those campaigns. Pause them. It's very, very important. Okay, so under this advertising rollout lesson, you're going to find a PDF document called an advertising rollout checklist. Goes over many of these steps I just covered, but it'll give you a nice checklist, a nice reference to have on kind of what you need to do and in what order and how the flow works. And of course, as I said, if you're using a model that uses an opt-in page up front, then you can skip all the pay-per-click stuff, because Google's not going to let you drive the traffic directly to the landing page like we talked about. It only wants you to do it to a real site that kind of has a sales page. Now, you can have a real site with a sales page that makes Google happy and have elements on it to build opt-ins, but you just can't send them to a page that has the sole goal of building opt-ins. But that's our advertising rollout. And listen, while that may seem simple or may seem like not a lot of steps, those are the same steps to build $1 million plus per month revenue business and more. Some people are using just some of these steps to do $20, $30 million a year in a very big business. So don't underestimate these steps as things that won't make big things happen. It all depends on your ad budgets and how you dial it up and how much traffic you can produce. But the beauty of the internet is there is so much traffic out there. There's so many places you can advertise and so much traffic you can bring to a website. The challenge, however, is driving traffic that'll be profitable for your project. And if you didn't do a good enough job in the evaluate stage, you may pick a niche that's too small. So you just can't get enough profitable traffic because the group of people you're selling to, they're just under a specific, demographic, specific age, certain, just whatever. They're from a certain, English-speaking country, or there's a certain place in, as far as income per year, whatever. The point is, it's just such a controlled group of people that are interested in collecting, old World War II pocket watches. That's probably a very small niche. So be very careful that when you do the evaluation stage, you pay close attention to what we covered, because we want to emulate and build projects going after large enough opportunities where, ideally, we would love to find a business doing, 4 or 5 million a year that we could kind of emulate and do 400,000 or 500,000 a year and then grow from there. Because we can certainly then create another project and another project and another project, if we're not able to really scale and build that other business beyond 400,000 to 500,000 a year. So that's the other thing just to keep in mind. There are so many opportunities out there. You can't just get married to one, because if it's not working, it's just not bringing results. Cut it loose. That's why we pay attention to our costs, where we don't want to invest tons of money, because if we can't validate it, if we can't get it working, boom, move on to something else. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of profitable opportunities for you waiting for you to build a business around the internet right now. So if one of them hangs you up, or you get kind of stuck, or it's not working out as you wanted, don't have any emotion about it. Move on to the next one. So those are some advertising notes for you and an advertising rollout plan for you to follow.